Hi, and welcome back to another video in the AI Shorts video series. Today I want to focus on GPT and how you might use it to write a letter. It could be a letter of recommendation. It could be a letter to an agency. We want to go in and play around with the prompts and do a little level of fine-tuning as we work through the application of the AI technology. One of the things that is really paramount to understanding how AI works with GPT is there's a running conversation you're having with the bot, not unlike a conversation with an editor you might have as a writer. And so in this case, if you're writing the letter and you don't like how it comes out, you can ask GPT to go in and make some alterations and changes. So we're also going to look at that iterative process here in this video. So let's jump on now. Okay, so in this particular case, we can look at writing a letter. And for me, what comes to mind right now is actually a letter of recommendation. At any one of these demos that I do for you, I think if you don't have sort of a little light bulb that goes off and says, is it ethical to use it for any of these purposes we're talking about? Again, I'm not weighing in on that. I'm trying to present this in a very agnostic way, not making a judgment and saying we have to talk about that. As a community, as an educational community, we have to have conversations with ourselves, if you will, about this. But let's say I wanted to use this to write a letter of recommendation. So I can put a prompt in here. Again, I'm on GPT. If you need to find that, you can just Google GPT. It'll take you to the correct site. So I'm going to say, could you write a letter of recommendation for a undergraduate student majoring in anthropology? Could you include something about the student's interest in archaeology? I'm just making this up on the fly. And what's cool about GPT, if you haven't figured this out, is if you don't like what it spits back, this is a conversation. So normally you'll see them pinned here they call them chats. But if I don't like what I see here, I can ask GPT to go back and to alter it a little bit. And I'll show you an example of this. Again, when I show you this, you might look at it and say, whoa, this is like cutting corners. This is something we should be doing on our own. That's a conversation we all need to have. My personal view on this is if there are certain things in our everyday lives that maybe are incredibly mundane, like if I have to write a paragraph I'm on in my local community on an architectural review committee. So if I have to write one paragraph on something that's very like formal and maybe something that's very technical, could I use this to start? And that's what I'm suggesting. You could use this to start. I'm not saying you should use GPT. Again, you have no requirement to use it or not. I'm just trying to introduce the tool to you. So if I take this, I can always cut and paste from GPT, and I can open up here a new window. Now, you'll notice when you hit paste here, you probably want to choose, at least on a Mac, keep text only. And then you can go in and adjust the formatting. If you're in Word, of course, you can change the font and all that kind of fun stuff. Now, what's interesting about GPT, it knows that when it's writing something for you that will have inclusions or deletions, it will often put brackets, right? So the assumption, what would be embarrassing is if someone used this and they forgot a few of these. That would be actually really bad for the student. Again, that's my caution about this. You don't want to use this as a total shortcut or something to replace whatever you're doing, your own creativity, your thoughts, your insights, and so forth. But if you see some of the formatting, like every letter is going to have this kind of statement at the end, don't hesitate to contact me if you have further questions, your name. So again, I don't see anything problematic with having that there. Where it would be problematic is if you didn't go in and adjust all this and say, well, here's what the student has done very specifically, and I need to make sure I go in and adjust that based on talking with that individual and discussing their resume with them, etc., the work experience. Now, let me go back and then just show you real quick what it looks like to do a continued sort of iteration. This is why we call this iterative forms of AI. So I can say on here, okay, great, I like this letter. Could you add an additional paragraph? And I don't have to say the letter because GPT knows that we're working on this prompt here. Again, typically when it's working, all of your chats appear here on this left sidebar. So could you please add an additional paragraph discussing the student's expertise with technology? Let's just see what happens and hit return, and I'll be happy to add an additional paragraph. And this is where I think it shows you that you have to go in and really update this. And I think this is an interesting example here. So what you can see here is they've done some updates, and some of this has repeated. So they have this line, which we already have. So I'm just going to take these 2 paragraphs that deal with technology. I'll just put them at the bottom here so you can see them. Again, I'm going to take out the formatting. And this is where you have to go in and make adjustments, because check this out. It's talking about GIS. Now, ChatGPT actually is playing the odds, if you will. It's like, you know, figuring out that it's very likely that a student who is applying to work in the field of archaeology has experience with GIS. It's just super common when you're doing large level site analysis. It's actually stuff that we have today that we didn't have back, in the early 90s when I was doing an archaeology dig as an undergraduate. So the challenge of this is, again, you don't want to just throw this in if the student hasn't actually worked with GIS. So because ChatGPT is playing the numbers and saying, there's a likelihood that if a student is in archaeology, they've used GIS software. That's kind of how it comes up with that assumption. So again, you have to go in, you have to make the adjustments. There could be other examples of letters that you might decide to write here. You can try these out for sure. And it's kind of fun just to get a sense to see exactly the power of ChatGPT in terms of generating maybe the foundations of some of the work that we don't want to write from scratch. Again, have the internal and external conversations about the ethics of this. I'm not at all taking an opinion on that in any of these videos other than to say, I think you always have to customize anything that is AI generated. So that is just one example today here using ChatGPT to write a sample letter. That is going to be it today here looking at doing letter writing inside of ChatGPT. As always, reach out if you have questions, concerns, or comments, and I'll be back with additional videos in this series.